Well, we got a full house today, so I'm gonna go ahead and get underway. I know people will trickle in for the next few minutes and such. But yeah, we've got five issuers today, so we'll be cramming to get into an hour. Thanks everyone again for hopping in. I think we missed last month, August, so definitely good to catch up. This is our 24th episode of the Unicorn Hunt, so very exciting stuff. With me today, I do have five founders. Very excited to introduce everyone. We got Mark Vermeulen with House Pickleball, Lexi Devices, CEO, co-founder Scott Cahill. We got Cameron Madani, co-founder CEO of NPCX, Sven Brunner, founder CEO of Sphere Technologies, and Don Tucker joining us as the founder CEO of Neurosum. All the first four of our founders here actively raising on Republic. I'm going to share the offering pages with you as we're going through their pitches. We'll have some QR codes scattered throughout the presentation as well. Those are all direct to their offering page. So please do visit those offering pages. Ask any questions you might have for these founders through the Q&A function here in Zoom during the event or after the event. Go to their discussion board. I know they're going to be really happy to engage with you. And then Don Tucker's joining us. He's raising capital on a partner of ours, Red Crow, crowdfunding for the healthcare space. And so super excited to have him hop in as well for our fifth panelist. Of course, as with all of these events, as everything you hear today, it's not investment advice. Always encouraged to do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. Investing in private markets is particularly risky, so don't invest what you're not able to lose. But now that we've got all the housekeeping out of the way and I've been able to very briefly introduce the founders, I'd love to pass it over to Mark for our first pitch. Once again, ask any questions through the chat roll or through the Q&A function here in Zoom. We're going to get to a Q&A towards the second half of the event, and we'll definitely get to all of those questions. So with that said, Mark, I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share here, and you should have full control.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Can everyone see my screen?
Not quite yet. Let's go ahead and try again. I did hit allow, but I hadn't stopped mine yet.
I probably have to request again here. There we go.
It should just go right into it. Let's see here.
I've got a quick system set in. All right. Should be good here. There we go.
There we are. Yep. All yours, man. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Hey, everyone. I'm Mark. I'm the founder of House Pickleball. We are a paddle and lifestyle brand based in New York City. So just to tell the story of House real quick, give some more on my background. I was in tech sales for about 4 years. I started at Trustpilot, leading online review platform really based on bringing trust to e-commerce through verified reviews. So that was my background. I was in sales there for about 3 years. So I left for a smaller, also e-commerce SaaS company. And I was there for about 6 months before getting laid off in the summer of 2022. So around that time, I'm thinking like, all right, what's my future? What am I going to be doing next? And I just really felt it was time to start my own thing. I grew up playing tennis. I was living in New York City and like seeing just on every street corner people playing pickleball. I was reading about how much investment was going into building courts specifically, and like just around the country, how much this sport was blowing up. But what I noticed about the people playing in pickleball, playing in New York City, was that although the sport was generally played by an older demographic across the country in New York, there was really a younger demographic of people playing in the city. And so I was thinking to myself, like, why is that? Why are people in their 20s and 30s playing in New York City, this game that has traditionally been for the older crowd? And the thing I realized was it's just a great fit for young people among this whole health and wellness craze, ability to get off our screens, off our phones, meet people in person. The other thing I was noticing was that the paddles they were using weren't super stylish. They're often just generic. You could tell it was the first thing they just bought off the Amazon listing. So that inspired me to start House, a community and lifestyle brand. And I will take you through that now. So as I mentioned, what is the problem that House is solving? The problem is that there is this growing market of younger pickleball players, people who identify as pickleball players and play consistently, that is underserved by the market. There's a ton of legacy paddle brands in the market that just aren't really speaking to that younger demographic. The aesthetics are out of date. They're not connecting in the same way that Gen Z and millennials kind of really want to be reached. And the other opportunity that kind of uncovered itself as I started selling paddles was just how much of an opportunity there is in the wholesale and custom paddle business. So basically, I ordered my first 100 paddles from our manufacturer. I started, you'll see that picture in the bottom left. That was from one of our first games. I just started hauling 2 nets down to the courts in the West Village, inviting people to play, taking pictures, getting video content, and just putting it on social media. And it really started to pick up traction from there. So I also lead with a lot of founder content telling that story of the brand. And what that led to was what you see here, a ton of brands getting in touch, wanting to collaborate with us. I think the thing that these brands all had in common was that I'm sure they could have found another manufacturer to make pickleball paddles. Like they could have gone with anyone, but they came to House because they recognize that we're building that community, that audience among Gen Z and millennials. And this just goes into what is our competitive advantage. The pickleball paddle space is super competitive. If you're looking online, there's a ton of brands out there. So I just lead with what our demographic, Gen Z and millennials, really crave from a lifestyle brand, and that's authenticity and community. So you'll see here on the left, we have an assortment of memes, videos, me telling the story of the brand through my own videos that I make, short form content, partnering with influencers and creators who are also getting into pickleball and they want to tell their story, as well as expanding kind of how we think about pickleball and what it can be, and how it kind of relates to broader culture, because the sport is everywhere, but it's been pretty insular up to this point, like kind of its own thing. People are like, is pickleball a cult? So our goal is to really kind of bridge that gap to the mainstream. Then just bring it back to the business side of things. What has been our biggest opportunity so far has been custom paddles for brands. These so far it's been mostly some bigger brands you saw on that slide before, brands like Cheez-It, Walmart, Barber. What they're trying to do is activate in the pickleball space. They want their brands to be associated with pickleball. And so that's why they come to us both to do the custom paddles, but also collaborate on social media and get access to our network of creators. So what we're working on right now is a custom paddle. We're calling it Paddle ID. So think like Nike ID. You go on, you customize a shoe, and then you can submit that order through the website or start the process of a lead. So I'm working on making this really, really interactive tool that allows people to input whatever their preferences are and really see the product before they buy it. And that's just because typically our sales process has been them getting in touch with me either via DM or email. And I just want to have something out there that, we can advertise against this as a landing page and just basically ramp up sales even further and be less based on manual outreach. So just some case studies what I was speaking to before. What has made us stand out has been events, influencers, and community. Done a lot with college athletes through NIL partnerships. We just do a product seeding relationship with a lot of these college athletes right now. They love playing pickleball as their second sport. It's great because you have football players, who can play against volleyball players. I think we saw with the recent Paris Olympics just how interconnected all these athletes are now. But they all play different sports. They can't compete on the same court or floor, but they can on the pickleball court. So it's really becoming that cultural phenomenon and kind of that common ground between all younger athletes following this health and wellness trend. So these are our plans for the future. So 2023 was our first full year in operation. We did 70,000 in revenue off the back, as you can see, of a lot of that wholesale and custom paddles, developing or producing over 1,000 custom paddles for Walmart's nationwide activations, community events, as well as our house paddles, selling those D2C. We have a very nice unboxing experience. So part of why we are raising here is to expand our product offering into apparel and hats, stuff that can be worn off the court. It's really important to me that we do that so that people can, who identify with the brand can rep it off the court. A paddle just lives on the court. And we just want to be able to access that full audience that we have, even if they're not buying paddles. So that is the plan in the next coming year. We're on track for 100,000 revenue this year, 2024, just with our paddles. So I'm really excited about how introducing new products will push that up even further. And then thinking long term here, we have 5 years into the future. Where do we want House Pickleball to be? A leading lifestyle and athletics brand. If you are going to be investing in house, you are making a bet on the future of pickleball as a sport, and we will be right in there. So that is our long-term plan. Here's some information on the opportunity, and part of why we wanted to raise on Republic was just access to the great community and like really build this thing from the ground up, give both Republic investors and our followers and customers a chance to get in on this while we're still so early. Another fun thing about us being an e-commerce company with products and doing this raise on Republic is that at different investment levels, you get access to different products. So I forget the exact levels, but most investors will be getting paddles with their investment, with their equity at a certain level. You'll get your own custom paddle, and as well as a hat. So yeah, we're really looking for like-minded folks to join our community and to become a member of Team House through this investment offering.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Mark. Love the hat. And yeah, it's been crazy watching the growth of pickleball over the last 12 months. It's not slowing down either. So that's awesome, man. I'm really excited for you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we had last year during our like gift exchange in the holidays. I think we had 3 different friends have pickleball sets, in their white elephant. So I'm sure it'll be just the same this year as well. Have to tell them about house. Nevertheless, we got our next guy coming up, Scott. I think it's you. Yep, with Lexi. Go ahead and hand it over to you. Looking forward to hear about it.
Thank you, Greg. All right. Thanks everybody for having me here. I'm not going to go into a full screen sharing mode because I'm using 2 monitors. So this makes it easier to navigate around. But thank you for having me. This is our second time raising on Republic. So Lexi, we are a wireless building automation platform for cost-effective energy management and decarbonization, primarily for small to medium-sized buildings. We were started in 2017. We've raised $5.5 million to date. We have 34 full-time employees, 3.3 million in cumulative revenue. We're projecting 300,000 in revenue this year. IP, we have 4 patents granted. 1 is pending. We got our customers, which I'll show on my next slide, have $68 billion a year in total revenue to date. And some of them are some of the largest real estate managers in the world, and they have over $1 trillion of real estate under management. Jumping to that slide, who are our customers? So Rheem, one of the largest HVAC companies in the world, at $5 billion a year. Healthway, a leading air purification company. Crane, which is a $3 billion a year industrial valve company. Easy IT Group, which is a Brazilian ISP of IT services in Brazil. And then our partners, so we work closely with a bunch of different firms. Brookfield, which is the 2nd largest real estate asset manager in the world. Patrizia, which is by the way, Brookfield has $950 billion under management. Patrizia, which is a German real estate asset manager, $60 billion under management. PricewaterhouseCoopers, the large tax and consultancy firm, $45 billion in revenue. And NXP Semiconductor, $10 billion in revenue. And all of these companies, with the exception of Healthway and Easy IT, work together in a group that we created. I'll talk a little bit later about that, called the Smart BMS Work Group. So what's the problem that we're solving? The problem is that buildings account for 30% of global final energy consumption and 26% of global energy-related emissions. So where has that gone? So the EU is ahead of the United States with an EU climate mandate called CREM, Carbon Risk Real Estate Monitor. You can see on the right-hand side here, this is actually lifted right from the EU website. Commercial buildings are now being measured in Europe, and this is moving over the US on a normalized basis. So the amount of CO2 that they emit per square meter. Starting in 2020 is when the tool began. And you can see here, it's a nonlinear path down to 2050. Every year, every commercial building in the EU has to decarbonize. So every year they have to emit a less carbon, consume less energy. By 2027, if they are not at or below what is called the CREM pathway, that building is officially deemed stranded. They can lose up to 85% of the building value. Rents are declining significantly for non-compliant buildings, 36%, and they're going to have to buy carbon offset credits. This problem is also moving to the United States, or I should say building performance standards are moving to the United States, with New York City leading the way with local law 97, but you can see it's growing rapidly. All of the green indicators around the country, including several Western states, and then another 32 areas that are looking at adding building performance standards. And when we talk about building performance standards, we're really talking about managing carbon and energy in each individual building. To give you a sense of how big of a problem this is an actual portfolio analysis. So a lot of the European asset managers are going out, they're doing energy audits on their building to assess what is their risk under CREM, all right? This is a single portfolio. It has 12 buildings, and you can see within 6 years, half of this portfolio is stranded. And by 2051, 100% of the buildings in this portfolio are non-compliant. So it is an existential threat for real estate asset owners. To give you a sense of scale, all right, UBS forecasts that 90% of all buildings will need to be retrofitted at the rate of 3% per year, or $500 billion per year globally, equaling to $15 trillion spent to retrofit buildings globally to meet climate mandates. So what is the solution? It's the LexiSmart or / wireless building BMS. We spent the last 7.5 years developing a very robust wireless technology platform. We were originally focused on the enterprise IoT space. And as a result of being partnered with PricewaterhouseCoopers, they introduced us to both Brookfield and Patrizia, who said, you know, this platform can solve an enormous problem for us, which is how to decarbonize these buildings. Because when you get into older buildings and when you get into smaller buildings, they have no existing building management system. And yet now they have to decarbonize these buildings. So the very first thing they have to do is put in some mechanism to get the data out of the building and start controlling the behavior of that building. And it is simply not cost effective to try to run wires around an older building, right? So the only way you're going to go in there and do this, particularly in and around tenants, is with a wireless system, all right? Not to mention, there's no place to actually put the wires. And in many of these buildings, nobody wants to cut into the walls because a lot of them have asbestos. And so then you get an asbestos abatement problem. So a wireless building management system, lightweight, cost-effective, is the only way they're going to solve this problem for buildings under 100,000 square feet. So, you know, what do? HVAC control, lighting control, air quality management, power metering, water leak sensor, and ultimately moving up to solar and battery storage, utility demand response, and even plug load optimization. To give you a sense of the scale of the market size, I mean, it's staggeringly big. Using the UBS forecast, the TAM is $500 billion a year. The percent of global real estate, commercial real estate in North America and Europe, which is our target market, is $300 billion a year. And then looking at, from Cushman & Wakefield's energy audit analysis, what's the percentage of the building retrofits that we actually target? It's about 41%. So $123 billion potential SOM. So it's just enormous. And there is, as we've talked to different partners in the space, everyone has said, look, there's no need to even think about competition. There is so much room here that everybody's going to get a big chunk of the pie. We're entering into customer pilots both in the United States and in Europe. So we've got partners and pilots going on with Rheem, with a healthcare company in Indiana, with Brookfield in England, with Neil Davies, the architect, another one of our partners, a sustainability architecture firm out of the UK, with Crane in the UK, and with Patrizia in Germany. And all of these we're looking to actually get underway later this year, latest by January. I want to share some of our customer quotes. David Strobel, Senior Associate for Innovation and ESG at Patrizia. When we first started talking to him, he said, very early in the meeting, I definitely see this as the future. And then I'm not going to read you all of these, but Rihal Chowdhury, Director of Connected Products at Ream, who's also going to be deploying our Smart BMS, said, we have a ton of customers who want this. And then lastly, I'll just read you from Alex Wolfson, head of ESG for all of Europe. They've got $50 billion under management there. I'm bored of all these consultants telling me how to reduce carbon and energy, but not being able to bridge the gap between the hardware needed and the interventions being put into place in reality. This is one of the reasons why we believe that this is a great solution for the future and that we could be of great use for many of our portfolio companies. So some of our competitive advantages: we're wireless. We actually cover more wireless protocols than anyone else in the world, with the exception of probably Google, Apple, and Amazon. We cover Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Bluetooth, Z-Wave, cellular, Thread, and LoRa. We cover all the major device types. We're interoperable through both BACnet and Modbus support, as well as, which are major building standards, as well as all the wireless protocols we support. And we can support a wide variety of third-party hardware devices. Lastly, we've created this industry work group over a year ago. These are some of the members. We meet monthly, and you can see it's a heavy-hitting crowd that's helping us build out our roadmap. And I think it's a testament. You know, I always say, why would companies of this size give us a second of their time if they did not see an enormous unmet need? The last slide I'll touch on here is our pro forma forecasts. So looking to grow by 2026 to 14 million, 2027, 30 million, and 2028 about 56 million. Thank you very much.
Huge thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. Board of consultants, imagine that. I got like 30 seconds more with you here. Just a quick question, and Camille, really appreciate the engagement here. Keep the questions coming. Scott, tell us a little bit about the background of your team.
So we've just been adding to our team. So we've just added a new chief product officer, Brian Bernstein, who joins us. He was former CEO of Digital Lumens, which is an Osram smart lighting company, which then became a factory automation company. Hans Bucco is joining us as a senior executive. He's taken one company public that he co-founded and had several positive or accretive acquisitions and exits. My background is I've started and sold several companies, put one on the Inc. 500 several times. And then we're actually have a new fractional VP of strategy who's joining us, who's the CEO of Intelligent Buildings, a 20-year consultancy in the smart building space.
Cool. Thanks a bunch. And again, we've got about 20 minutes dedicated to Q&A, so please ask them. If we can't get to them now, we're certainly going to get to them here towards the end. Super excited to turn it over to our third team here, NPCX. We got Cameron Madani, co-founder, CEO there, and he's joined by his other co-founder. Just got the name here. Really sorry, guys. And even better if you got Alberto Minacci. Alberto, really sorry about that. But gentlemen, I'd love to pass it over to you for a few minutes here.
Certainly. Well, thank you for having us. Really appreciate it. We actually raised $500,000 on Republic in 2022. 2023, we actually raised venture funds from Cacao Investment Corp on a $3 million seed. We raised half of that. It's been a challenging VC market. We were hoping to close that round out. So we came back to Republic, and I just got to be frank with you guys. We are terrible at marketing, and we're so grateful to be on again, because where we were in 2022 to where we are now is really a testament to the initial capital we got in addition to Cacao's background. The reason I have Alberto here with me is I'm the CEO of NPCX. NPC is our synonymous in video games, non-player characters, metaverse, and background characters in film and television. So the reason I wanted to bring Alberto, my background is 15 years video game development, 10 years in animation and motion capture. But Alberto, who's our chief product officer, is arguably one of the OGs of motion capture. He literally wrote a book on motion capture. And if you all recall the movie, I'm glad there's some Gen Zs in here and above. If you remember Polar Express in 2004, it was the first fully motion capture produced film with Robert Zemeckis. And Alberto created all the technology. There was no pipeline in existence in the world. And in fact, his team that he managed went on to win the Academy Award for the next year for the same category. There wasn't even a category in 2004, and Monster House won it in 2005. He also went on to work on a number of films with Superman, Batman, most recently the Avatar series with James Cameron, where Alberto designed the algorithms and built a Gen AI model that, in fact, we talk about it, they don't even need to train it anymore because they did such a good job. He built that in 2018. It took him a few years. And so with my background in video games, Alberto's background in motion capture animation, and our third partner who's not here with us, would be three, would be probably too many. He's a data scientist. He's an entrepreneur. He's had 3 exits, and he's leading our technology team. So what are we doing? We are building technology that is capturing, measuring, and recreating motion for body and face. And I'm going to pull up, let's see here. Do we have it? Is that it? That looks like it. So hopefully, yep. Okay. So again, NPCX, the name is synonymous for non-player characters. So we are leading innovation in Gen AI for creating animation, particularly in video games, film, television, XR, and the metaverse. As I mentioned, we have 3 very strong partners. We're very product focused, and it doesn't always translate into raising capital. And I know that is something that we could certainly improve on. But again, that's why we're here. We have several products that we're going to share with you. One is already rolled out. We focus on motion capture, and that can be done with markers or markerless. And I'll share a little bit some video with you to explain that. So really the big problems are 3D characters are very tedious and costly to animate and to create. So usually it's one and done. You create one character, it's linear, and it's never used again. The second big problem is animated characters are frequently rigid in movement and don't act naturally with their environment. And the big North Star of ours is actually taking characters, building on first and second problem solving, and then actually training them through AI models for behavior. So how do humans and animals act, react, and the decisions they make? And that was really the big bet that Kakao made on us with us last year. So the solution, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead, is AI-enabled content. You can create faster and cheaper. That's always a good value proposition. The realistic content comes in phase 2, and then the behavior, and go back into the phases. So right now we're in phase 1. And we rolled out our first product that solves the first of 2 problems with motion capture. So motion capture, what you do is you have characters and they are in suits and they move around. There could be some wrestling, some body contact. And the first part of that's called tracking. Again, I don't want to get too technical, but that's cleaning up the skeleton to make sure that everything's moving properly. The second part is retargeting. That's arguably more creative and more expensive. So we rolled out Tracker X. We already have 5 customers. We're building an API out. And in fact, we're testing with Activision, with 2K and soon to be with Activision. With 2K, they've committed to, in 2025, to use this exclusively as their initial process when they shoot characters. They do NBA, they do WWE, and they have a number of other titles. We actually have a Slack channel established with them. They said that that's almost never done with outside developers because they're so interested in this product. And I have some video to show you what tracking looks like. And so if you look at the budgets, it's quite extensive. So I put Polar Express here specifically because Alberto worked on it. Total development budget was about 200 million. The motion capture processing was nearly 20%. And you look at some of the other films, for examples, Avengers Endgame, 44 million motion capture processing. Avatar, Way of the Water is quite extensive. Then we get into video games, and these are some big budget games. We worked actually with Star Citizen in the past, in my previous life, with another company. And they have a massive budget, and a lot of it goes towards the characters. They want to have them move realistically, act realistically, both body and face. And you can see these are some sizable numbers. Now, the TAM on this is about $1.5 billion to $2 billion. Now, what we're not talking about in this presentation is when you capture motion and measure it in real time, it actually can apply towards robotic movements, can apply towards sports betting, and et cetera. But we're just focusing on the animation business. And the reason that we feel that we have a competitive advantage is that we are from the industry building into the industry. So we're not some university project that's trying to find product market fit. We know the pipeline, so we're dropping our products in the current pipeline with all the invested infrastructure without a lot of friction to retrain. And so that's been very helpful as far as market adoption and interest. I want to show, this is from our main product video. I want to make sure the volume is off. And I want to explain a little bit about, oops. Okay, the first part I mentioned is tracking, and that's the product that we have now that's being tested. We have about 134,000 in revenue. So there is money coming in, but the big item for Tracker X, our first product, is going to be in January 2025 when 2K starts to utilize that. We already have a contract with them, and so we're quite excited. So I'm going to show you, without getting too technical. So maybe you have, if you can see, this is an actress. She's got markers on her body, and then you have the skeleton that's generated. The hands are quite big here because there's a lot more markers, but you see. Okay, so we have the ability to capture the body, but this is where our tool comes in. This is the tedious manual process. This is part one. You can see a lot of markers. This is right arm, chest, left arm, pelvis. You can see the right hand is almost obliterated because something is blocking that camera, and we're able to fill that in. Now, what that means is time and money savings. So this shot was processed in about, I would say 5% of the time it would take for a human being to fix all these issues. And so you have, again, these are missing information and it's being completed in here. And so this is the product that we have now that is with 2K and Netflix, and they're utilizing. The second more creative process is retargeting. And I want to have Alberto talk a little bit about that, why it's so time consuming. So if you want, while I tee up the video, Alberto, you want to share why retargeting is so?
Yeah, retargeting is probably the most expensive and time consuming part of the process of performance capture. And basically the main idea is you have motion from a performer that has certain proportions, and now you need to make a character of different proportions move with that performance. Now, when you apply the performance one-to-one, the character is sliding all over the floor and they're not moving in a way that is consistent with what the performance was. So you require animators to fix that by hand. And there's also cases where you want to change the style a little bit. Like, for example, if you want to put an animation from an actor into a character like Mickey Mouse, and you wanted to squash and stretch or do some Mickey Mousey things, you need animators to do that. But our product can be trained with style and performance so that it will deliver exactly the style and proportion changes that are needed without the need of expensive animators.
Yeah, so where it gets really interesting is you can actually go, companies can go to back catalog of animations they already have. Usually it's one and done. And so they can actually go back in time to other games they've developed, use generative AI in this process. We have a generative AI model that they can actually take characters and put them on new characters. It can be used for crowd simulation. So it really starts to save a tremendous amount of time and money, millions and millions of dollars per production. And so when you look at the fact that we've been in the industry, we have a lot of interest. In fact, this product with Target X, which we're part of the reason we're raising money for, is we want to launch this in 2025. We already have Activision, EA's interested in it, 2K's interested in it. So we feel like, and even potentially talking with Alberto's contacts at Avatar. So again, this is kind of a geek session for us in the film and games industry. We know it's a big deal. We're really excited. And there's a few other products we're building out. I don't think we have time to share, but I do want to show one, which is our markerless product. And this goes back to measuring, capturing and measuring movement. So here we have the skeletal data. This is from recorded video, which makes this very novel. So you can literally take recordings and create skeletal data from characters. So here's a Lakers game. You can see the skeletal model there. And since we already have the experience with the biomechanical models for the Tracker X product that we have in existence, we can start building animation models. And then this is really interesting. If, oops, did I lose the screen? I'm getting a little too excited. Okay, so this is the NBA 1998 championship game with Michael Jordan. With his permission, of course, we could build a biomechanical model of Michael Jordan. Why this is interesting and for games application is we can actually build a model for Michael Jordan, and he can be playing in a 2K game. So there's a number of other applications we're just super excited to share with you, but I want to make sure that we have enough time to answer any questions from the forum. So I don't see anything there, but if I don't know how much
they'll trickle in for sure. This is fascinating stuff, guys. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, by all means, anyone tuning in, I know I've got some questions as well. So please send them through the Q&A function, send them through our chat roll, and we're gonna cycle back around to you guys. So Cameron, Alberto, thank you so much. It's crazy hearing about the addressable market there, and that was really only just animation, and now you're incorporating the sports and the analytics behind the sports.
There's robotics applications too. We can observe how humans work in a factory or something, and we can create models on safety and so forth.
Fascinating stuff, guys. Well, we're gonna go ahead and pass it over to Sven, founder, CEO of Sphere Technology. So Sven, would love to hear a little bit more from you.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Sven. I'm the CEO and founder of Sphere. And actually, let me see if I can make this a bit bigger for you. The Zoom bar is taking off my conflicting with Windows. There you go. As I said, I'm Sven. I'm the CEO and founder of Sphere. Born and raised in Switzerland. Now I'm living here in the San Francisco Bay Area, where we're also headquartered. We have also offices back in Switzerland, Zurich, but our headquarters now here in San Jose, California. A few words about myself and my background. I have a background in computer science and business that I studied back in Switzerland, and you will see then why. But some people then ask me like, why did I start this business with this particular technology? And I usually answer then half jokingly that as a child, I was a bit of a weird child. My two heroes were Bill Gates on the business side and Darth Vader from Star Wars. And like being able to combine the passion of business and science fiction in an actual product that solves problems for the real world was extremely exciting for me. And this technology that I'm talking about is called XR, extended reality, which is the umbrella term for virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. Our industry has a tendency to throw around a lot of acronyms. So I want to make sure that everyone understands what this is. And our company Sphere and our product is also called Sphere, harnesses that technology to supercharge enterprise productivity and collaboration. And I want to highlight here, because sometimes it's a bit confusing, we're software only. We're using third-party hardware. I'll talk to that in a bit. And we're only focused on the enterprise. No consumer, no gaming. It's a productivity and enterprise solution. Now, what's the problem here that we're addressing? Now we have in basically the entire labor market, an increasing issue of a skill shortage. We have like a lot of the baby boomers are retiring. We have an issue with getting skilled new workers into the workforce. And that will only get worse over the years. We see it mostly already in the industrial settings, automotive, aerospace, and in general manufacturing. But it will also extend more and more now into like the tertiary sector, into the knowledge worker base as well. And the other big challenge that we're facing in today's world is remote and hybrid work. I know there's a bit of tug of war between like in-office, remote, and so on. And these are like really hurting productivity. And a lot of companies, especially larger ones, really struggle. Now, what's the solution? The proposed solution from our side is spatial collaboration. And if that all doesn't make sense, what I'm going to say in the next 20 seconds, don't worry, I have a video right after this where you can actually see it in action, because our technology is very visual. You got to see it to really understand. But to really quickly explain, you can really think of it, and it's a bit sci-fi. You put one of these augmented or virtual reality glasses on, and one of our USPs is we're device agnostic, meaning we're supporting from the Apple Vision Pro to the Quest 3 to the Microsoft HoloLens to smartphones, tablets, and computers to really give customers the opportunity to basically bring your own device and use Sphere as a solution. And let's say you have a headset on, or we have a bunch of people, or we would all be in headset here. We would all be able to join the same session, see all content that we place into the physical world. And as you can see here on the pictures, you really then have virtual content placed in your physical world, like holograms, hence the Star Wars, for those of you who've seen Star Wars. And they behave like actual objects. There's three-dimensional. I can walk around. I can manipulate them. I can move them around. And why is this interesting, right? Think about we have, for example, customers using that for car design. They have a half-built prototype car, physical in the middle of the room, and put their latest 3D designs and models on top of that car. Everyone in the room is connected into the same session, so they all see it at the same place. They can interact with it in real time, and they can even bring in people from anywhere in the world. So we really remove almost the need to be, obviously we love being with our colleagues in the same rooms. We don't want to get rid of personal connection, but it's very, very effective to be able to jump into a meeting, into another country, into another factory, into another city, and work with your colleagues as if you were there. This is where I would say the strongest customer base at the moment is where you have three-dimensional data to work with, aerospace, automotive, and so on, where you can really collaborate on three-dimensional content. But we also see more and more actually that going into, like, again, the knowledge worker sector. Related to that is also the remote assistance functionality, which is basically, I would say, our cash cow also at the moment, which is also a sub-form of spatial collaboration. And that's what we're seeing on the bottom right image, where basically you wear glasses and the person on the other side of the world, can be anywhere, sees through the eyes of the person on site, right? They really see exactly what they're seeing, and they can interact with the environment. So I can then circle like a bulb and say, hey, this is where you need to fix it. Or I can spawn additional materials and content to that user, which makes solving that particular problem or that procedure much, much faster. And I'll also have some statistics around that. But as I promised you the video, and I'll probably also pause quickly then at one point. But just so you see this in action, it's actually footage from our application. You'll also notice that some people are then in basically the same place together. Some are apart and then visualized as avatars. They're very lifelike. They can talk to you. The mouth movement, eye movement, hand tracking, and so on is all synchronized in real time. You can also see various applications that we are able to tackle with our technology. And I'll quickly then pause in one of the next frames because that's it's a very good example of a larger session where you can see basically all here. Let me quickly pause. What you can see here is that a person in the middle of the room wearing glasses and seeing this, I guess it's like a turbine or something space related, that they're working on. It's a design review session. Now we have the two people here that look a bit like ghostly, but these are the avatars of other participants joining that session. Those two are co-located in the same space, but can now interact with their colleague as if they were in the same room together. And on the right, in the background, you have a gentleman joining, let's say, from a computer. We would then see his camera image, but he's also part of the session. He can also interact with the virtual content. You could also draw into it and move it around and interact and annotate and really participate in that design review session. Why Sphere? What makes us special as a company? One thing I would really say that we've cracked that a lot of other companies haven't cracked is enterprise-ready deployments, which is maybe sounds boring, but it's extremely important when you work with very large. You'll see some of our customers in a second with very large companies that take security and data privacy extremely seriously. So we're ISO SOC 2 certified. This is in progress. We are AWS partner and pass all their technical foundational basically tests. As I said, we're device agnostic. We allow people to bring in over 60 different file types into our solution, including various 3D models. And we're the only ISV in the world that have a native Teams integration, meaning you can directly from your vanilla Teams client that a lot of companies these days obviously use and have, call into Sphere. So when you remember in the video, the person in the background on the computer, this could also be in a Teams client, in a totally normal Teams application that you have on your computer. And so that's interoperable, which is a very, very big deal for enterprise adoption. Now, one statistic I would like to share with you, and I can't share what the company is, but there's not that many in the world, so you can probably take an educated guess. It's a very large global aerospace company, and they're one of our largest customers. And the statistics they were able to share with us were really, really almost mind-blowing to us. So they had this procedure for airplane maintenance that they conduct very, very often. It's not like a once a year type of thing. There's maybe per airplane, but there's a lot of airplanes in the world. And that took them 4 days to conduct. Now using Sphere, and they specifically used the remote assistance functionality. So you had several people on site, all collaborating, working on the plane, the maintenance procedure, and experts from back in the headquarters where the engineers and the experts are. And they were able to bring that time down to 2 hours. Now, I probably don't have to tell you how much time and money that saves when you have 5, 6 people working for 4 days, versus then cutting it down to 2 hours. And the quote, the actual quote from customer was, "This is going to save us millions," which is obviously exactly what you want to hear, that your product solves exactly needs like that. We also have these I can mention. You can also check them out on our website. We have case studies with some of our largest customers. Pfizer is one of our customers. A university clinic in Germany. We have also very interesting case studies. Actually, I highly encourage you to check out this. It's one of my favorite use cases that we can solve because it has to do with like telemedicine and really helping people directly. It's a very nice application for technology to do good, I would say. And really quick in the market, I'll just leave you with, it's very, very big. It's going to be in 2024, we're talking about a $22 billion market, which is expected to grow past $100 billion by 2030. So it's really, really strong and fast growing. Our traction, we have more than 40 companies using Sphere. Some of the logos you can see up there. As you can see, it's all the Fortune 500 companies and various sectors, but again, mostly manufacturing, automotive, aerospace, and so on. We've partnered with some of the biggest names in our space. Lenovo is actually also an investor in our company. We have already raised almost $10 million up to date, not on Republic, but from venture firms. Qualcomm is a very close partner of ours, and AWS. When I say partner, we either work together on products, technology, or also go to market. AWS, for example, is a go-to-market partner. They resell our solution. And maybe you notice here the 3 question marks, and I can unfortunately not share yet who they are publicly, but I wanted to tease a little bit. It's all companies you 100% know, and I just want to show also how much basically traction there is in the entire XR market. So there's a very large software company that's entering the XR space for the very first time later this year, and we've partnered with them. There's an even larger software company. It's also a little bit of a hardware company that's already entered the space that we're also partnering with, and we'll announce that very soon. And there's also another very large hardware company. They're doing hardware. It's a brand you all know really well. They're bringing actually a new headset later this year. We're going to be the first and only enterprise product that will be running on that device, which is extremely exciting for us and the entire team. Real quick, what's next in our product roadmap? We're basically now focusing also on enhancing all these use cases that we have with artificial intelligence. And I know probably some of you are like, oh no, not the AI thing again. But it's really not in a gimmicky way. That's also why we waited quite a bit to really understand, hey, where is really the benefit that we can offer to AI? And this is also mostly other part of the reason why we also raised on Republic to really fuel have enough fuel in the tank for our team to really also go after this initiative, because it's not trivial, but really, really promising. So basically what we're doing is we're giving the AI eyes and ears through our solution, right? Headset. You can interact very naturally with our solution, with your hands. It's gesture based. You can talk to it, even with your eyes, with eye tracking. And now combining that with AI, you're able to basically feed that directly into a large language model. And the secret sauce here is also, these models are trained on company data. So we partner with AWS, Amazon, and the data is not ChatGPT and Gemini, because these things are banned in, like, let's say if you have a large customer like Volkswagen, the German car company, that's our customer, they're not even allowed to use that internally. So what we enable them is to train the LLMs on their own data, and what that ends up doing is you can then walk up to, let's say, your machinery, look at it and just say, hey, show me the maintenance history of that machine, or show me where I need to conduct this next procedure. And the spatial co-pilot that we're building, the AI, will be able to tell you, hey, this is what's wrong. This is where you need to conduct a step, which is, and that's why we're doing it. It's kind of leveling up. It's like a 10x thing for all the use cases we already support to make them even more efficient, right? That's why we really feel like, that's also why our customers love it. It's not like a gimmicky thing you just throw in, because it's AI. It actually enhances what you can do in our solution, but also for AI, right? Because what you don't have to worry about is prompt engineering and all that stuff, because the context is in the real world, right? We automatically capture the image that you're seeing, right? But also additional data, lighting data, meshing data, to really give the AI model all the context it needs to reduce hallucination, to basically make sure it gives you the accurate answer. Because in enterprise, you want to have accurate answers and no hallucination. That was it. Thank you very much from my side, and then happy to answer any questions that will come up later on.
That's awesome, Sven. Thank you so much. It's funny you commented enterprise-ready deployment is boring, potentially. I imagine it's pretty sexy through the ears of an investor. So that's really cool, man. It's an awesome product. We're gonna wrap it up here with Don Tucker. So super excited to hear from you. I know we've got maybe a healthcare heavy audience here. So once again, Don and his company Neurosum, raising through a partner of ours, another funding portal called Red Crow. I'm gonna send through a link here to the offering page, and it'll take you over to their portal as well. So Don, take it away. Happy to hear from you.
Great. Thanks very much. At Neurosum, we are a medical device company, and again, we're on the Red Crow platform. And our goal is to develop electric sleep therapy, techniques for improving the quality of sleep. Let's see here. Sleep is a public health issue. Many people suffer from insomnia. And it's not just an impairment of performance, like workplace performance. It's also a health issue. Many disorders, including anxiety, depression, and even dementia, are exacerbated by poor sleep. The question is how to deal with it. How are we going to improve sleep? And at Neurosum, we have begun by our scientific research to understand the mechanisms of sleep. How does the brain regulate the sleep process? So we've applied high-density electroencephalography to localize the brain generators of the slow oscillations of deep sleep. The stage N3 is the deepest and most important stage of sleep for not only consolidating memory, but also having the restorative effect of a good night's sleep. So our science work gave us actually a discovery that the slow waves of deep sleep are generated in the limbic structures of the brain at the core of the cerebral hemispheres. Now that was interesting to us because it taught us how to go to the next step. We could then use that knowledge of how sleep is controlled to target the brain regions and therefore enhance the length of deep sleep. So by understanding the neural sources, we could design a simple headband that you can apply with a battery-operated controller that then applies electrical currents through the appropriate pathways to synchronize the brain's natural electrical activity, and therefore enhance the length of your deep sleep. So our goal was to allow working with an older person and give them the sleep of a young 20-year-old. And we were able to do that by applying the electrical currents at the appropriate time. Now, an important trick was being able to measure and detect the sleep stages in real time using artificial intelligence at the bedside. So with a simple NVIDIA nanocomputer, we're able to apply a convolutional neural net in real time at the bedside, detect the appropriate stages of sleep, and then turn on the electrical synchronization to enhance the important stage of deep sleep. Now, part of the goal there was not just the science, but the engineering to make this feasible. There are a number of features that have to be designed in so that a person could do this fairly high-tech intervention at home. And that's been our goal, is to be able to design a simple headband and provide the training procedures that allows a person to apply this at the bedside, linked with Bluetooth to the nanocomputer that's running the NVIDIA artificial intelligence to be able to map and monitor the sleep stages at the bedside. This has really given us an advance over any of the other technologies for headbands manipulating sleep. It's a very active area. Many people all over the country are concerned with their sleep. They know they might be getting a little older. Their sleep isn't quite as good, and maybe their memory function isn't quite as good. They want help with this. So at Neurosom, we're providing an advanced technology to provide that sleep enhancement, both in the wellness, but also in the medical space. So we have a full medical quality system. We work very closely with the FDA to be able to develop medical technology that can then be approved in the medical space. We've had good press from the both popular press as well as our scientific publications, and we've been active in patenting. There are a number of unique features that contribute to our IP that make us really quite unique in this space. So we're now raising funds on the Red Crow platform. We have a target of raising 5 million in order to allow us to take what we've created and go to market. And the markets we're looking at are insomnia, a very substantial market right now, given the demand of people whose sleep is not good and they know it's impairing their health. We're also looking at the cognitive decline market, people who are over 50, people who are over 60, and are finding that their cognitive function isn't quite as good as it used to be, and they can relate this to the impairment of deep sleep. So we've been fortunate now, as we're preparing this go-to-market and putting the final touches in product design, to have grant support from the federal government. So in many ways, we've been able to de-risk the investment opportunity for investors with the non-dilutive funds we've had from the federal government. One large project we have right now is from the US Army, and the goal is to improve sleep under operational conditions where the military environment is very demanding on performance, and the person may not have the opportunity to have a good night's sleep. They may only have a short nap before they have to go into a high difficulty performance environment, such as rotorcraft. The goal is to have a power nap, to use our oscillation synchronization of our technology to improve a short period of sleep to make it as effective as a longer period. Another major market that we have is in cognitive decline. Sorry about the phone call. We are able to then build an application specifically for senior citizens. These are people who may be healthy. They may not have cognitive impairment yet, but they're old enough that they're on the risk schedule for it. So the National Institutes of Aging has funded our project to examine cognitive decline with the goal of reducing the rate of cognitive decline in mild cognitive impairment, and therefore putting off the time to Alzheimer's disease by improving sleep, where we can demonstrate that we're able to clear the toxins of the brain by improving the length of deep sleep. So our team has a good background, not only in science and engineering, but also in medical marketing. We've had a long history of companies that deal with advanced brain technology, which we took to an IPO in 2013, and then were acquired by Philips Healthcare in 2017. We were able to take those funds, translate them into our current effort, and now ready to go to market. And importantly, I'll emphasize that we have very good advice from key opinion leaders in sleep medicine, such as Dr. Ruth Benka at Wake Forest University. So that's the overview of Neurosom. Again, we're on the Red Crow platform, and we're glad to be included in the unicorn hunt and to have a chance to talk to you today. So thanks much.
Hey, thanks a bunch, Don. I love that logo you just threw in there as well at the end. Really creative. So thank you to everyone for staying along. I'm going to go and keep this going for a few more minutes, and you know, you're fully encouraged to stick around. If you have to jump off, totally understand. Please do visit the offering pages for all 5 of these deals. They've got discussion boards. I know everyone here would love to engage on with you on those discussion boards. Mark, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you and just ask kind of a kind of a lump question here. So, you know, and throw some closing remarks in at the end of it as well. This is very relevant to everyone tuning in. It's a question that is old if you're tuning into multiple unicorn hunts. But what gets investors really excited when you start talking about house pickleball? Conversely, what are some of the concerns you might hear as well from them? And part B of that, totally unrelated. I'd love to hear you answer to the audience, talk about foreign markets as well. I know you answered it individually, but I would love to have you expand on that too.
Yeah, definitely. I'll start with what concerns investors about house pickleball. Pickleball is a very competitive space. Paddles themselves, there is a low barrier to entry to putting a paddle onto the market. And then, of course, just all the other challenges with bootstrapping so far an e-commerce and product-based business that is going to rely on distribution long term. I would say those are like the main concerns, is just competition, but we are leading the way in front of a bunch of other paddle brands. So competition definitely validates the market, and House is a leader in that respect. The thing that excites investors the most is definitely the customization of paddles and just how that has played out so far, because customization is one of our core competencies, and that can be expanded into other products. Thinking long term here, just both on what brands are looking for when they want to customize a paddle, but also consumers, like they just want something that feels really personal to them. So my long-term vision for it is that we're able to offer like a 2-pack of paddles and have that be a customization option live on the site that you can customize and check out all in one flow. So definitely the paddle customization and how it pertains to other things. And then, just getting to what I think about pickleball expanding globally. It's definitely, I see business people coming in from all over the world at these conferences I'm at for pickleball. India is a big market that it is really starting to take off in, because of just how easy pickleball is to get into. It's so accessible, set up. You really just need a flat surface, of course, your paddles and balls, and a net, which can be pretty much anything. Like I've seen at the courts in New York, out in Queens, this is the older crowd. They would set up literally just with a homemade net that they would string up they had like a little cement bucket with a stick in it. That is why it has exploded, in the United States, and why it's trying to take off globally. It's so accessible, so easy to play, much like soccer. And yeah, we're starting to see the seeds kind of, starting to sprout in like those hubs across the world. I think part of the reason they kind of, look to house or gravitate towards us is because, we're New York is in our DNA, and New York's such a global city and resonates with people worldwide. So it's really cool. I love getting messages from people saying, "Hey, I just started a pickleball club here in Thailand." Like, and like trying to collaborate with us on that front. So I'm really optimistic about pickleball growing globally. The US is the biggest exporter of culture. We're in a fishbowl here. They watch what we do. Pickleball's gotten to this level in the United States. I think it's just the beginning for the growth of the global game.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think it's a really great point, the accessibility of it, and yeah, just kind of being a role model with culture globally. So I think that's really cool. Scott, got a couple questions here for you as well. I think you've heard the first one before, but you would love to hear you answer it again. What gets investors super excited about Lexi? What are some of the concerns you might also hear from them? And then I know you answered these questions as well through the chat. Many thanks for doing that. But talk a little bit about the competition, as well as some of the challenges that you guys are facing as well as you grow. And we got you muted. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, I think the single biggest thing is that we are addressing climate change, and climate tech, sustainability tech, and AI are the two big segments that are getting venture funding these days. And we're addressing it from what's interesting is that our customers, what they love about what we do, and I think the quote from Alex Wolfson at Brookfield captures it, is there's so many VC-backed companies that they want to try to solve these problems from the cloud. You fundamentally cannot solve or optimize and maximize the amount of energy savings in a building without putting something in the building. Okay. Occupancy sensors, smart switching, smart thermostats, air quality sensors, power meters. There's only so much you can do from the cloud, and that space is just overwhelmed with companies. Our customers like that we actually put hardware in the buildings because our customers own things. Whether it's Rheem that makes HVAC, or Crane that makes valves, or Brookfield that owns buildings. And so we are a significant differentiator in that. And the next thing that they love is that we cover all the major wireless protocols. There's not a single wireless protocol to solve all the problems. We have customers with identical architectures that are actually using different wireless protocols, and we can support them in both of those because we've spent the last 7.5 years building out and integrating all the major wireless protocols that are used in the smart home and the smart building space. So those are the main reasons that they're excited. Like, we actually, can go in and influence energy consumption and decarbonize buildings, not just in the 5 and 10% range, but in the 25, 50, even 60% range. And that's what they're going to need to do in order to meet their building performance standards and their CREM pathway standards over time. They're not going to be able to do it from the cloud. And so that's why, we've got all these major companies working with us, is they see that they need this. And then you had another question, Greg, was that on competition?
Yeah. What's some of the competition you guys are facing?
Well, so I mean, it's kind of a trick question. I always tend to say that. So in Europe, there are two companies that do what we do to some degree. That's Hark Systems, which was acquired by SolarEdge, and Optimized. And they're having tremendous success in their space. In the US, we don't see anybody doing what we're doing. By the way, I'll add that Hark does not actually have any hardware. Optimized does. We compete with 75F, which has raised $36 million from a great selection of investors, such as Google and Siemens. But what they're doing is they have a proprietary wireless system for lightweight wireless building management system for newer buildings, and it's only HVAC, where we cover HVAC and lighting are standards based and are focused on energy consumption and decarbonization, which is not their space. And 75F is having a fair bit of success in the public school space, but they're not going where we're going, which is with large portfolio management companies or even with the facilities management companies like CBRE. And then, of course, at a certain level, we compete with Johnson Controls and Honeywell and Siemens. But we know from them directly, as well as customers, they're focused on buildings over 250,000 square feet and above. And that's why there's such a big opportunity for us in these smaller buildings, because it's just not worth their time and the effort. And their platform is just simply too expensive to put into those buildings to address these problems.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And thank you for kind of simplifying it. I think it makes it is very sensible to hear, like, a lot of these challenges, you can't move the needle within some of these older buildings if you don't just have some sort of IoT device. You need to put some sort of sensor in that building.
Right.
So yeah, it seems very sensible. All right. Moving on to NPCX, and I think this is great that we got Alberto here, because I don't even know what this question is, but we've got a great answer teed up for it. And Cameron, in addition to that, would also love to hear what gets investors super excited about what you guys are doing, and then what are some of the concerns they might also have.
Certainly. I'll let Alberto answer the question. I think.
The question.
Yeah, we got one coming in. It was from Mathuraman. How different is the open access toolbox deep level cut?
Oh,
I don't know. Go for it.
okay. So there's a few open source packages like that do pose estimation. So that one does for animals. These are models that are already trained to do that. And they do the pose estimation, and that's it. And that particular one has pretty low resolution. Our model gets trained with data from our customers. So if you want a model with Michael Jordan, you get one. And also, we go way beyond just the model and the inference, which is querying the model, to build a skeleton and to process everything and deliver retargeted animation in the style that you choose. So it's quite a big difference.
Yeah, and I think what gets people excited is it's exactly what Alberto said. There's a lot of companies that build pose libraries and motion libraries, and they've been trying that for about 20 years, and they're typically pretty heavy as far as cost on computing and storage. What you have animation directors or creative folks, they want to shoot a human or an animal. They don't want to use a pose estimation or libraries. So where it gets really interesting is the biomechanical models and the skeletal models that we built. And we have a unique Gen AI model, generative AI, that takes the skeletal data from the human, which is actually pretty lightweight, and then it applies it onto a character with our generative retargeting. So you're actually getting that performance. What we're doing is basically creating a very lightweight solution to get performance from a human or an animal onto another character. And that's what people get really excited about. They also get excited because we're from the industry, like Alberto and I, especially Alberto, has contacts at EA, at Disney, at ILM. And these people are really anxiously awaiting the product. And I wish, frankly, we were more capitalized. We were trying to get the $3 million seed, which would allow to us to get the generative retargeter to market. Probably we could have got it if we raised the full seed, probably later this year, early next. So we're being very conservative. The other thing is a lot of our team is in Latin America, so we have considerable cost savings. Like we have data scientists that are 1/4 the cost. We have 5 data scientists, 4 are PhDs in astrophysics. One worked at CERN. The other was building weather models. So I wanted to get back to the Gen AI where it's interesting, because there's LLM models and there's computer vision models. There's not a lot of Gen AI based on skeletal data, which is super precise, right? You can create a mid-journey time experience would kind of approximate what you want. But when you can actually get the fidelity of characters and actors, performance actors, which are like athletes, right? You really want to see that precision. What they're really excited is our technology drops right into their pipeline. They spent millions of dollars on stages and software and training, and we just drop it and say, instead of humans, we can do this for a lot faster and cheaper. And I think that's what they're really excited about.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. I think one of the most eye-popping things I heard when you guys were pitching as well is, like, you have these animated films, like 9-figure budgets, and this takes up a 20% of that, a fifth of it. And so yeah, like they're not joking around, and it's I think you guys are bringing some great solutions.
The other thing is that you can now have the same budget but a lot more content, right?
Yeah.
or you can have indies start using our products. And we haven't even talked about the scientific applications, and I'm really excited to see the
Robotics.
and robotics. And we
Yeah.
actually were at NVIDIA's XTS. Was it XTS?
GTC.
GTC last this March, and there's a big push for robotics and using computer vision. And we argue that we can have a lot more precision because we can build biomechanical models for humanoid robots or mechanical robots. And frankly, it goes back to being undercapitalized. We need to be better at fundraising. We're so excited about our products. We're super product focused, and we just wanted. There's a lot of things that we want to build out there.
Well, we're here to help as best we can, and super excited for what's next for you guys. Thanks a bunch.
Sure.
Sven, would love to ask that same question over to you as well. Obviously lots of really cool stuff on your plate. What gets investors super excited about Sphere? What are some of the concerns you might hear as well? And I know you answered this also, but I'd love to have you touch on some of the competitors that are on your radar as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, what gets them excited? It's interesting. It's kind of what gets them also excited sometimes worries them as well, because it's almost like it's so almost universally applicable to so many industries and use cases, right? What you've seen before, right? We use the same technology to support automotive companies as we do for aerospace companies, as we do in healthcare. And even though it's the same tool, right? I always try to also then tell people, hey, think about, we're here on a Zoom call, right? This is now a webinar for presenting investment opportunities, but some people use it to just talk to their parents or kids or something like that, right? So it's a tool that you can use for many use cases, but the technology is the same. That's something that people are extremely excited because the market opportunity is so large, right? There's when you look at the stat that I quickly show, right, how much we can reduce these processing times for certain very complex procedures. This is like a game changer for a lot of customers that gets investors always excited. And as you shared too, right, the ability to really sell into enterprises, to having proven that we can win these like Volkswagens, Pfizer's, Microns, that obviously gets them super excited, the big logos. Now, again, I addressed the concern already a little bit, like, hey, are you focused enough, right? Because as a startup, everyone knows focus is priority 1, 2, 3, or that's what you really need to have. And that's obviously something I'm going to be honest, had to learn initially when you start your company, you're excited about everything, or everyone who wants your product is like, woo, that's awesome. And you have to learn to really focus your resources where it makes sense, your team's resources where it makes sense. And that's also how we then address that. Maybe the one other concern we sometimes get is people don't understand the technology that well. And sometimes our industry is its own worst enemy, right? We had a lot of backlash after Mr. Zuckerberg from Meta rebranded, first of all, from Facebook to Meta, then talk about this, for some people, dystopian metaverse, where we basically don't spend any time in the, I'm someone who really likes to be in the physical world out there. And I think that didn't help, right? That created some hype initially, but then it's like people were really like, I don't want that. And that's sometimes a bit an issue. Then investors have a bit of negative sentiment. But then what we always do is like, hey, ours is not like a dystopian, weird future. We actually help companies and people do their job better, right? Which is also a really nice counterpart to some of the AI thing. A lot of people feel like, hey, they're taking away jobs. We're actually giving people superpowers, right? It's people like to do their jobs better. It's very human centric, and that's also very exciting. It also, I think, really plays into the current world of remote work and so on. Quickly, competition. I would say there's 2 buckets. One is easy. The one always needs a little bit more explaining. There's I would say 3 or 4 startups, mostly here in North America or the US, who do similar things. No one can rival the coverage we have in terms of devices. No one can coverage the feature set that we have, and especially also the partnerships. They fall very, very short. That we're partnering with all the major players in the space. The other big one that we also have as a competitor is Microsoft. And sometimes when I say that, investors, especially in the VC world, they're like freaking out. Like, how can you compete with Microsoft? You're a 25-person team. But it's actually an interesting competitor. Sometimes I answer them if they're the perfect competitor, because Microsoft does a lot to develop the market, raise awareness. But their tool is very much tied. They have a similar feature set than we compared to us, but it's all tied to Microsoft services. So it's Azure, their cloud platform only. It's Dynamics 365 only. So you cannot bring your SAP data in. You cannot bring your Oracle data in. You cannot use in connection with Zoom or anything like that. So that's a major concern. What actually happened, we have actually a track record. Companies like Pfizer, like Micron, like Volkswagen, they were actually Microsoft customers. They were unhappy with the Microsoft solution, launched an RFP, we swapped in and took the customer from them. They already validated the case, they had hardware already. So for us, it actually helps us accelerate because Microsoft's, I'm not going to pretend we're winning every single deal against them, right? It can obviously, it's Microsoft, right? We lose here and there as well, but we're very, very competitive. We can even proven track record that we can win Fortune 50 companies against Microsoft. But that's on competition.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great way to look at competition as well. And I know you mentioned it earlier too, but software solution that is device agnostic. So it fits really well for somebody who maybe doesn't want to stay with the whole suite of Microsoft products and services.
Correct.
Love it. Well, Don, excited to pass this over to you just to wrap us up here, and would love to hear from yourself a little bit about what gets investors super excited about Neurosome, and then what are some of the concerns you might also hear.
A lot of times what we get are personal interest in sleep. So we have actually investors with sleep problems that agree to invest if we can provide the device to them to help with their sleep. And what we find is most people understand the value of a good night's sleep. They see the change in their own life when their sleep is good and when it's not. So there's a real personal interest and pretty smart understanding of the basics when we talk about what we can do. The concerns often come from understanding a medical device company and what is required to have clearance in a market, either FDA in the US or the MDD in Europe. Now, the good thing is we know a lot about that. We have a lot of experience in dealing with a quality system, having to have a medical grade quality system. Now, many companies will have ISO 9000 and a quality system, but the medical grade is just more challenging and difficult and more expensive. So the way we address that is just in detail. We provide investors with an overview of our clinical trials and our meetings with FDA. So the FDA is very good about holding your hand and letting you know when you're doing the right thing and when you're not. So in some ways, we have to be able to educate investors on the nature of a medical device company and what's required. Now, one advantage we have is that sleep is also a wellness device. So you don't have to have a disease in order to need good sleep. And so this is an area we're going to market right now to help particularly seniors who want to age effectively. That's a very effective market right now, and we can put these devices to work immediately.
Fantastic. And thank you so much for that color as well. Well, to everyone who's hopped in as an attendee, and then an enormous thank you to all of our founders here, all 5 companies, again, actively raising 4 of them on Republic, 1 of them on Red Crow. Please do, we'll have this recording ready and we'll distribute it out to both the issuers and the attendees and people who RSVP'd early next week. Everyone, enormous thank you for sticking around for a few extra minutes as well. Have an awesome afternoon. We'll see you again next month for another episode of the Unicorn Hunt. Once again, round of applause for all the founders here. Many thanks for hopping in today. Go visit their campaign pages, ask them some questions on the discussion board. They want to talk to you. So with that said, everyone take care. We'll see you next time.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.